Okay. हो गया क्या चालू? Okay, so look at this. There is this folder ANSYS 2021 R1. When you install the software, you get this folder. Cool, right? Okay. Then there are basically a lot of products that ANSYS provides. You can see all of them over here. There are too many of them really. And then there is this last product, Workbench. This is where you basically do everything that you need to do. Just open it, right? What is this? Public services. Don't care. Okay. So as you can see, this software is right now opening. It takes a lot of time to open. Just so you know. So I would suggest you have a good RAM and maybe some SSDs installed, or you would be in literal hell. Come on, open. Okay, so see, as you can see now, Ansys Workbench is opened and there is literally nothing over here. Yes. So as I just said a lot earlier, we are actually doing a static structural analysis today. And therefore ANSYS has a very cool option over here known as static structure. We'll just click on it, drag it, put it here, and it just gets in here. Okay, and we will just change this name for fancy purposes. I guess we'll just call it plate with a hole. All right, plate with a hole. It is here. Now, first things first. As I just said in the beginning, we have performed some pre-analysis, and there we actually made this data table where we actually defined the material and its properties. Now this material actually does not exist, and therefore we will have to tell ANSYS that this is a material, and we have to give some of its properties to ANSYS. Okay, so here is this. So as soon as you put the static structural in here, right, you will get many options in here, and you can already spot some options that we just talked about. You can see geometry over here. Model is nothing but mesh. Setup is nothing but physics setup. Solution is nothing but numerical solution, and results is nothing but numerical results. In the numerical results itself, you do the verification and validation, and which we will do by comparing it with the pre-analysis results that we just got. All right. So here we have engineering data. Oh my God. Okay. Yes. No, 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 no. Don't open. Don't open. Don't open. Yes. Don't open. Okay, so here we have engineering data, right? So in this place, basically you define your material. So we double click on it and open it. And for some reason, it likes to use my graphic card. I don't understand why. Okay. And here you can see that there are a lot of materials and lot of different properties in here. And by default, there is structural steel in here. All right. We don't want to use structural steel today. We want to define our own material. So as you can see here, it's written, uh, click here to add a new material, right? Just click on it and we'll enter the name. Enter. All right. Now it is automatically selected, but there is a question mark in here, small question mark, which basically means that the properties of these materials are unknown to the software here. So we will define some properties. Now the properties that we had defined in the problem right over here are elastic properties of a material. More specifically, they are actually linear elastic properties. Okay, just wait a minute. I got a message. Who messaged me? So these are basically linear elastic properties. As you can see, there is a linear elastic tab over here. Inside, there are basically three different options. There is isotropic elasticity, there is orthotropic elasticity, and anisotropic elasticity. We only care about the isotropic elasticity. We'll just double click on it and we will put it in here. As soon as you do that, you will see a few things in here, like these 8 rows are created in here, and there are some blank values in here. You have to fill them. These yellow ones, you have to fill them yourself. These dark ones, they get calculated automatically by the software. So we will have to put the Young's modulus and the Poisson's ratio in here, right? What is the Young's modulus that we calculated? It is actually 29 into 10 raised to 6 or 29 E6 in PSI. Okay, in PSI. I just forgot to add it back. And that is what we'll do. We'll just take here. We'll put 29 E06. It gets calculated as 2.9 E07 because obviously it just puts a decimal in between. That does not matter a lot. But the big problem that we have done over here now is that we haven't changed the unit. It is set to pascals, whereas we defined it in PSI. So we need to drop it down over here and select PSI from here. We'll put in PSI and you can see now it is no longer 29E6. It is 4206 for some reason. We don't want that. We will change it. We'll double click on it and we'll just change it. 29E6. My God, how much does this person text me? Wait a minute, just wait a minute. Sync a device. Log off. Okay. So 29E6, we just put it in here and we got 2.9 E07 in PSI. Next thing, it is asking for the Poisson's ratio. We have it. Poisson's ratio is dimensionless and therefore there is no unit for it. We'll just enter 0.3, press enter, press enter, press enter. Okay. So as you can see, these two values are calculated automatically from these two things in here. And we are basically done with defining our material. And you can also see that the question mark over here, it has disappeared now. We'll just get out of here. We'll just X out of here. And we'll right click on this and just for safety measures, click on this update button. Click on this update button over here. I am paranoid, so I do it. You don't have to do it if you are not paranoid like me. All right. Then there is geometry. Here we are actually going to define our 3D model. Now, first things first, our object type is actually 2D, but by default, ANSYS deals in 3D stuff. So what we need to do is that we need to right click on geometry and go to properties. You can see there is a lot of thing in it, a lot of stuff in it. You need to go to analysis type and it is set to 3D. You need to change it to 2D. Okay. If you change it to 2D and you're good to go. Close out of here and I will do it because I'm paranoid now. I will just click on update. Then again right click on it and you can see that it is saying new design modeler geometry. Now by default, ANSYS will want to use space claim, but you can change it. You can come in here. You will come to tools. Wait a minute. Okay, where's preferences? Yeah, you will basically come to tools and then options, and then you will come into where is this? Where is this? Mechanical blueprint, design exploration. Not here. Not here. Not here. Not here. Appearance, not here. Geometry import. Yeah. So basically, you can just come into geometry import over here. If you just want me to show it again, go to tools, then go to options, then go to geometry import, and it will ask over here preferred geometry editor. You have two options. You have space claim and you have design modeler. So just select design modeler because design modeler is easier to use in some aspects. If you are just beginning with it, you will want to use design modeler. All right, and then just click on this O over here, which is okay, but I don't know why it is O now. Okay, so then we have now set our preferred design modeler, preferred CAD modeling tool to design modeler. We'll just right click and then we'll click new design modeler geometry. And as you can see now, it is saying just below over here starting design modeler. It is now also saying in here ready. And if you will just go back over here, it is saying double click the component to edit, which means that everything is ready and good to go. Now we are actually doing a 2D geometry. So first of all, whenever you come into design modeler, right, you need to check two things. You need to check your units. Now this unit is set to meter, but we are actually dealing in inches. So we will just set it to inch first. Then we will click on this Z. Now, why am I doing this over here is because we are actually trying to look at the plane in which we are trying to draw. If you click on Z, all right, if you click on the Z axis, you will be looking at the x and y plane. If you will be clicking on the x axis, you will be looking at the yz plane. And if you will be clicking on the y axis, then you will be looking at the x and z plane. So we will just click on the, wait a minute. No, okay, we will just click on the z axis. Yes, we'll just click on the z axis and we will be now looking at the x and y plane. It is by default in the modeling mode, and we will change it to sketching mode. And you can see that the two axes are now in front of you. This is the y-axis and this is the x-axis. First of all, first question, what are we drawing? We are drawing a rectangular plate with a hole, right? But do we really need to draw the entire thing? All right, that is my question to you. Do we really need to draw the entire plate and the entire hole? Do we really need to do? हेलो.
क्वेश्चन ही नहीं समझा।
अरे, बेसिकली हमारे पास एक रेक्टेंगुलर प्लेट और उसमें एक होल है ना. हम लोग को वो पूरा का पूरा रेक्टेंगुलर प्लेट विद द फुल होल बनाना जरूरी है, या हम लोग आधा बनाकर भी खुश रह सकते
हाँ, आधा कर सकते हैं ना उसको, फिर बाद में सिमेट्रिक किया तो।
हैं. तो दैट बेसिकली मैं पूछ क्यों रहा हूँ मालूम है? बिकॉज द थिंग इज, व्हेन यू विल बी मेशिंग ना, the bigger your geometry, the more number of mesh is, the more detail the mesh is going to be, and the more points are going to be in there and nodes are going to be in there, and it is just computationally intensive. So what you really need to do is that you need to create your geometry as small as possible but as accurate as possible. So if we look at the plate and the hole, right, it is symmetric about the x-axis and it is also symmetric about the y-axis. Okay, and therefore now we can be happy if we just draw 1/4 of the entire geometry. Okay, we can be happy by just drawing 1/4 of the entire geometry, and we will have to set our dimensions according to that too. So let's do that. What I'll be doing first is I'll be putting in a circle. All right, now if you if you just select the circle tool from the left in here, and if you go to this center point, this big blue point in the middle, it is going to give you a letter like P over there. That just basically means that you are drawing from that point. You need to have that right now because you are going to draw a symmetric object. All right, so we will just put that circle tool in there and we'll just see that if we get that P or not, and I am currently getting that P in the background there. I'll just click once and then drag. All right, I'll just drag and I can make it as big as I want. It really does not matter right now. I'm just trying to draw a circle. It does not need to be perfect. All right, I'm just going to draw this circle and I'm going to click again and it will set the circle to whatever it is, and you can see that the circle is now there. Whatever its dimensions are, it does not matter. Now what we'll do is that we will click on this dimensions tab. All right, is this dimensions tab. If you click on the draw tab, you get a different tools that you can draw, and then if you click on the dimensions tab, you can get the various dimensions that you can give to the object. We will see that there is a radius tool in here. We'll just select it, and then I will come here and I will just select the circle. I will just select the circle and it goes orange. Just click once and then I will start dragging inside. I will drag inside and then I will try my best to actually get this, this brown colored line in here parallel to at least one of these axes. Okay, I just have to do that because, well, or else I will get a lot of constraint errors, which I will explain to you later why they happen. Okay, so I will just try my best to get this in here. You can see, yes. So it is now in parallel with the y-axis. I will just click and it will just happen. It just gave me the radius dimension now. I will not change its value right now. I will change it later. Right. Then I need to draw a rectangle. There is an option in here. There is just a draw tool called as the rectangle, and we will just select this. We'll go to the center point, and I can again see that there is a P there, which I need, by the way, because I'm drawing a symmetric object. I'll just select this P, and I will just come out here anywhere, and I can see now that there is a C right there. All right. It does not matter where you put this point now. Just put it anywhere. I'll just click once, and then I will drag up, and then I can drag basically anywhere. It does not matter. I'll just click it and I will just leave it. And you can see now the rectangle is created. Now, the big thing, I don't need this entire circle. I just need 1/4 of it. And therefore I need to remove this edge. I need to remove this edge. I need to remove this edge. And then, as you can see, that this rectangle and this circle, they are both intersecting with each other at these 2 points. All right. And I don't need this edge of the rectangle and this small edge of the rectangle over here. So I will have to remove that too. Just come here into the modify tools, and then there is an option called trim in here. Just select it, and then just start removing whatever you need to remove. I said that I want to remove this edge. I will just select it. I will remove it. As you can see, it's gone now. All right. I'll select this edge. I will remove it. It's also gone now. I'll just select this, and it is also gone now. And then I need to remove this small edge in here. All right. This small edge. This one. So I will just put my pencil on it, and I will remove it. And then I will also remove this small edge in here. Okay. Wait a minute, right? Wait a minute. पार्सल आ गया आखिरकार. ठीक है. So basically this is what we have created here right now. As you can see that this looks like 1/4 of the geometry that we are trying to draw. It is not dimensioned properly, but this is still 1/4. And now we will just dimension it. So I will just come in here. All right. And I can see that there are no dimensions for the rectangle. I will have to give the dimensions. So I will just click on the dimensions tool, and it is by default selected in general. I will just come here, and I'll try my best to show you this, but you can see that there is a very small point in here. You just have to select that. Then there is another very small point in here. You have to select that. Click on it, click on both those points, and just drag up. You get this. This is a dimension line. All right. And then the tool is already selected. You will just click on this very small point in here, and you will click on this point in here. All right. And this has been created. Cancel, cancel. Come back. Okay. This has been created. So now we have got the dimensions of the rectangle, and we have got also the dimensions of the circle. We are just going to give them the dimensions that we know are the truth. So let's first select this upper edge, or basically the length of the rectangle. Now, because we are actually drawing only 1/4 of the geometry, the length is actually going to get halved, because the length is symmetric about the y-axis, and we only drew half of the geometry. So the length was 10 inches, but because we have 1/4 it, we will enter it as 5 inches. We have got it here. So you can see it just made it into 5 inches. Then this thing over here, this is the width. The width is actually 5 inches, but we have drawn half of it, so we only need 2.5 inches. So we will enter 2.5 in here. If you can just see, then I am actually entering these dimensions in the bottom left over here. Okay. And then there is this r1, which is nothing but the radius of the circle. Now the radius is what? The diameter we know, it is 0.5. The radius would be 0.25. So we will just enter that 0.25. And that's basically it. We have now successfully created our rectangular plate with a hole, and that too only 1/4 of it. So this is done. But right now this is just lines and curves. This is not a surface. All right. It has no material in it. It is just lines. We need to first create a surface out of it. So this concept bar appear, or this concept tab appear. We'll just click on it and we can see that there is an option called surfaces from sketches. Just click on it once. Then click on this plus icon. We were drawing this geometry on the XY plane, right? And therefore, when we click on the XY plane, we can see that there is a sketch one in here. You can rename it if you want to, but it's not really necessary. Okay. So we will just select this sketch one and you can see that our geometry has been selected now. We will just click on this apply button now. So now this design modeler knows that you are going to create a surface from all these lines and this curve. All right. And the second thing is the operation that we want to do. So the operation by default is add material. You can change it, but it really does not matter right now because we are just creating a surface from lines. The third thing that you need to actually mention in here is the thickness. The thickness, we know it is 0.2 inches, but that 0.2 inches is also symmetrical about the z-axis. All right. So if we just come up here and we just look at it, all right. So if we just look at it, then this is just a simple line. But we know that the thickness is 0.2 inches and it is symmetrical about the z-axis. Therefore, we will only enter half of the thickness. That is, we will only enter 0.1 inches, and the software will understand that the thickness is actually 0.2 inches, but symmetrical about the z-axis. Okay. And then once we have defined all these parameters, there is this big generate button in here. We just click on it. And as you can see, we have our 1/4 plate with a hole which is also 1/4, and this is basically it. This is basically the geometry that we are going to work with today. Just, and then you don't even need to, like, control s to save it. You can just close out of it because workbench will take care of it. All right. Workbench will save everything that needs to be saved. So we'll just x out of here. And now we can see that there is this geometry over here. It has a green check mark in front of it, which is good because now ANSYS knows that what kind of thing we are trying to work with. Second thing is model. Model is the place where we are going to mesh. All right. Now we'll just click on edit and it will open up ANSYS mechanical. All right. So we'll just wait until I see ANSYS mechanical opens up. Yeah, and now it is opened up. But if you just come in ANSYS Workbench, you'll see that in the bottom it says starting mechanical and it is a red bulb kind of thing in here. And now it is gone, which means that ANSYS mechanical has started, and it indeed has started. Okay. So first things first, we want to define our mesh. All right. We will just click on this mesh button. All right. And you can see that automatically we are in the mesh tools over here. The first thing that we need to set is the sizing. There are various options in here, and you can use each one of these options according to the problem that you're trying to solve. And but currently we are not even going to go through each one of these softwares. We are only going to go with two different tools. All right. So there is the sizing which we need. The sizing will actually define what will be the mesh size. All right, and you will know what the mesh size really does. For that, I need to click on this sizing tool. All right, just added two of these. Okay, so there is this under mesh. You can see that sizing is now added, and then once I do that, I can see that there is this plus icon crosshair type thing over here. It is telling me to select a face where I want to actually apply the mesh sizing. I will just select this face right in front of me. It goes green, and there is this simple thing apply selection button over here. You can just click it. You can just click it and it will apply, or else you can just come in here, click in this yellow box, and then click on apply. It goes purple, which means it's selected. Good. Second thing that you want to set in here is the element size. Now you can basically set any element size in here. The smaller you go, the more detailed the mesh is, and the bigger you go, the more worse the mesh is. Okay, and you don't want that. You want as much detail as possible. So we are going to go ahead with a value 0.05. You can add more zeros in here, but then you will also have to wait that much time. All right, because it is not easy to mesh. It is It takes a lot of computations. So we will just go with 0.05 for now, and it is set. All right. Then we'll again click on the mesh outline in here, and we will see the sizing tab. If you go to the sizing tab, you can see that there is an option in here called use adaptive sizing. It should be set to no. If it is set to yes, then whatever you did here with the face sizing will not apply, and ANSYS by default will do whatever it wants to do, which is not what you want. All right. Now, if I just click on generate, right? If I just click on generate, you can see in the bottom it says 5% meshing, 100% meshing done. And yes, our mesh is now created. All right. This is what a mesh looks like. As I just said, it is nothing but the geometry divided into several smaller sections, and this is what has happened over here. Our geometry is now divided into very, very small sections. All right. But as you can see, the mesh has a specific shape. Now, these square-like shape and these triangles are actually famously known as the chord 4 and tri 3 shapes. All right. These are basically two-dimensional elements. Each one of these squares that you see here right now is known as an element. And if you zoom in a lot, then each one of these corners of these elements are called as nodes. As I said a lot earlier, that you basically calculate the forces on each one of these sections and then average them out. You actually do not calculate on these sections, you actually calculate on these nodes. All right, these corners, you actually calculate whatever you want to calculate on these small corners. And basically, there are two types of dimensional elements that are mostly used. They are the chord 4 and the tri 3. The chord 4 basically is just a square. The tri 3 is nothing but a triangle with three sides. Obviously, we know, but it's not the sides. It's actually the points that are in the geometry. So a triangle has 3 points, therefore it is called a tri 3, and a square has four, therefore it is called chord 4. So this is now done. All right, this is meshing is now done. You can also perform calculations with this, but there is a big problem over here. As we know from the pre-analysis that the maximum stress is actually going to be at this hole, and that too at theta is equals to 90 degree, which means that it is going to be here. We want it to be calculated as accurately as possible. But with the current mesh size that we have, it is not going to be calculated as accurately as possible, because each one of these points, like if you consider this point and this point, it is very far away, and this point is also very far away, and therefore each one of these points is going to give you a very different value. And if that happens, then basically the solution that you are going to get is not going to be really great. It is going to work, but it is not going to be really great. We want a very accurate solution, a very approximately accurate solution. And therefore, we have two options over here. Either we can increase them, either we can decrease the mesh size. All right. If you just go to face sizing, and if you decrease this element size to maybe, if you add more zeros in here, yes, that can work. But you know what the issue with that is? This element size will be applied to the entire object. So each one of these small square and triangle faces that you see here, it will be even more than that. And you really want that each one of these faces has to become smaller. You don't want that, all right? You only want that this circular hole right here, it should have those small faces. And therefore, we will use something known as mesh refinement, okay? So if I just click on mesh back again in here, and you can see that there is this tool called mesh refinement. If I just click here, it is asking me to select a geometry side. Now I can apply mesh refinement to the entire face, or I can also apply it to a particular edge. And that is what I will do. If I see here, there are a few tools. These are selection tools, all right? And if I just click on the edge selection tool over here, or you can also press Control plus E if you want to, I will just select this, and I will come in here. I can see that now I can only select this curve over here, which is what I want to do. I will just select this curve, and I can just click on this button, and it gets applied automatically. And you can also see that there is a tag over here which just says that it is refinement, as you can also see over here. Then I need to select the refinement value. Okay. Now it is by default set to 1. You can go ahead with it, but I will set it to the maximum, which is well 3. Okay. I will just set it to 3. I will come back and click here on mesh, and as you can see that there is this lightning bolt in here, which means that something needs to be updated. All right. I will just click on mesh, and as soon as I do that, it goes in computing, and now you can see that there are more number of elements in here, more of these quadrilateral and triangular faces, and they are only applied to that section, and everything else is left out. All right, which is what we wanted and which is what we got. Now when we perform the calculations, right, when the software performs the calculation, they are going to be performed very nicely on this particular part, which is what we wanted. And yes, basically we have got it now. So this is meshing, and it is done. We have completed the meshing phase. Okay, we will just X out of here. You really don't need to, because the next steps that we are going to do, you can just do it from here and it would still work. But because we saw those 7 steps, we will just X out of here and go through each one of those steps stepwise. Yeah. So we'll just X out of here, and you can again see that the model now has a check mark in front of it. Whereas the setup now, which is nothing but the physics setup, has a question mark. We'll just click on it, right click and edit. Okay. And it will again open up ANSYS Mechanical for you. Okay. Just wait until it opens. Okay. So now ANSYS Mechanical is open, and as you can see now that the mesh is gone. Well, it is not really gone. It is still there. Just because you opened it with the right click and X out of X out of it, basically it just does not want to show you anymore. If you click on the mesh over here again, it will start showing it again. But you know what? Let's leave it out because it's going to clutter up things, and I don't like that. Okay. So by default now static structural has been selected in here. This is basically where you define all of your physics setup. Okay. And by default we can see that the environment tab is now selected. In the environment tab you define what are the various forces that are going to act. Okay. Now as I said, we are going to deal with pressure forces, which is basically means that we are going to pull it, right? And pulling is nothing but applying pressure. So we are going to apply a pressure force. But even before that, we need to give our object the material. Right? We have defined the material, but we haven't yet assigned it. Okay, those are the two different things that you need to remember. So we will just click on the geometry tab. Then there is this surface body in here. Click on it. Go down. You can see that there is this material property. Its assignment is currently set to structural steel, but we know that we have created a material called SFM. If you just click this drop down, you will see that SFM is there. Just click it, and now it is assigned. So now the geometry is actually using the SFM material instead of structural steel. Okay, so now the material assignment is done. Second thing, we want to set up our forces. So we will just click on the static structural again, then select our pressure force from menu. This is the pressure force. Okay. And it is asking us, first of all, where do you want to apply the pressure force? Now we don't want to apply it on the entire face, and neither do we want to apply it on this edge. We want to apply it only on the right edge. And I will just come in here, just select this edge selection tool, and I will go to the right edge, and it is marked in those red and white stripes, as you can see right there. I will just click on it, and then this apply selection button. It gets applied. There is a tag there. There is a pressure which is currently 0 psi, which is not acceptable. We will change it to minus 1 E6 psi. Now, when we were solving, we took the pressure force to be 1 E6 psi, which is positive 1 E6 psi. But here, when we are entering minus 1 E6 psi. Why is that, right? That is because by default, ANSYS does not give you tensile forces. It gives you compressive forces. Okay. And basically, what is compression? Just the opposite of tensile stress, right? And therefore, we are applying minus 1e6. By that, we are telling ANSYS that don't compress. Instead start pulling. All right. So we just put in minus 186 psi, and you can see that there is a graph in here which defines how our force is actually going to act over time. Okay, and that is why it is shown as ramped in here. All right, you can change this behavior if you want to, but currently we will just let it be ramped. Okay, so now we have defined our force. Second thing done. Now the third thing is known as constraining. Now why do we need to do that? Now currently if you just click on the solve button, right, the problem that's going to happen in here is that because this edge is free to move, this is free to move, and this is also free to move, ANSYS is going to give you an error that the body isn't constrained properly. Like the body is moving, whereas you are doing a static structural analysis. And it is not possible with me. Okay. Therefore, you need to add something in here. Now that something we are going to add is known as a symmetry region. If I just click on model and I click on insert, then I can see that there is this symmetry option in it. And then we can just insert, right click on it, insert is symmetry region. Now, what is a symmetry region? It is what you think it is. Okay. Basically, a symmetry region is just going to tell ANSYS that this is a part of the geometry, and then basically this is the symmetry region. So on the other side of it, there is the other part of the geometry. You cannot see it. ANSYS knows it. Okay, that's all that matters. So this we just select this symmetry region. It is again asking us where do we want to apply the symmetry region, and by default we have the edge selection tool selected over here. Okay, we'll just go over this edge. Now we know that on the left side of this edge there is a similar geometry present to this, so we will just click it, apply it, and then there is this symmetry normal. The symmetry normal for this case has to be set to x-axis because we are basically telling that there is a similar geometry on this side. Okay, on the left side, which is on the x-axis. Okay, and then this is set to x-axis. We'll again add another symmetry region. We'll right click, insert a symmetry region, and this time we will select this bottom thing. We'll select it, apply it, and instead of adding x-axis, we will be adding in y-axis. So now ANSYS will know that what is the full body that you need to calculate upon. Okay? It is going to know that, and at the same time, we have now constrained our object so that ANSYS is not going to give us any more errors. So this is basically the entire physics setup. Okay, this is basically it. There is nothing more else to do in here currently. Okay, so we will just again X out of here. As you can see that the setup now has a lightning bolt aside of it. Therefore, we will have to right click on it and click on this update button. And when you click that button, you can see that there is a show progress going blinking in here. All right. We can also just click on it and see how the progress is doing, but it is done now. And you can see that the physics setup has a check mark in front of it now. Then we will set up the numerical solution. Basically, this is the place where we are going to set up what we need to see or what we wished to see. Okay, we just again right click and clicked on edit. Okay, so it again opened up ANSYS Mechanical, but right now the solution tab is active. So what do we need to see? If we go back to our presentation, right, we can see that there are a lot of things that we needed to calculate. We needed to calculate the total deformation. Okay, where is it? 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 So yes, we wanted to calculate the total deformation, which is delta L, and we need to calculate four different stresses, which is radial stress, circumferential, shear, and maximum stress. We can define all of them in here. So first thing is deformation. We needed to calculate deformation. There is a deformation option present over here. We click on it, and there is two options: total deformation or directional. We need total deformation, so we'll just put it in here. There is nothing to change in here because it will know how to calculate it because it is total deformation after all. Then we will again click on solution. We will add a stress. Now we need to add four different types of stresses. we will first add a normal stress. This normal stress we will rename it. We'll call it sigma max. Okay, the max stress that I was talking about. We just calculated. Okay. Now this max stress is obviously applied along the x-axis, and therefore we are going to leave the orientation as it is. The other thing that we need to care about is the global coordinate system, or what coordinate system you really want to use. So right now there is two options, the global coordinate and the solution coordinate. Usually we just use the global coordinate system, but soon we will be adding another coordinate system to it. Okay, we will just come back to solution again, and we still have to add three more stresses. The other stress that we are going to add is also a normal stress, but this is known as sigma r, the radial stress that we just calculated. Then we again come back to solution. We add another normal stress. This is known as sigma theta, which is basically the circumferential stress that we calculated. And then finally, we need the shear stress, which is also in here. We'll just put in shear stress. We'll rename it to tau r theta. Good. So we have now added all our things that we need to actually visualize or get. We needed the total deformation, we added it, then sigma max, then sigma r, sigma theta, and tau r theta. Done. But also not done. Why? Because the thing is, sigma r, sigma theta, and tau r theta are using the polar coordinate system. They don't use your global coordinate system. And therefore, you need to now define a new coordinate system. So we will see that there is a coordinate systems tab in here. If you click on the plus, there is only one available, global coordinate system. All right. We'll right click on it. We'll click on insert, and there is only one option, coordinate system. We'll add it in there. We'll right click. We'll rename it. We'll rename it to polar coordinate system. And we have not done it, as you can also see that there is a question mark in here, because we need to set what the geometry is on which you want to create this thing, this coordinate system. But we don't want to create it on a geometry, we want to create it on a global scale. Therefore we will be defining the origin of this coordinate system using the global coordinates. We click on it, problem solved. Our polar coordinate systems are now actually available, but they are also not available, because as you can see, the type is still set to Cartesian, which is what we normally use. We will set this to cylindrical, and now we are done adding the polar coordinate system. Done. Now we'll go back to sigma r, and we can see that the coordinate system it uses is still the global coordinate system. We don't want that. We want it to be polar coordinate systems. So we will add that. The second thing that we need to check is the orientation. Now, radial stress is always oriented with the direction in which you are applying the stress. Now we are applying the stress in the x direction, and therefore our radial stress is also oriented in the x direction as defined by the orientation in your x-axis. Then we have got the sigma theta. Sigma theta is also using the coordinate system as global. We will change it to polar. And then the other thing is the orientation. Now, as we know from the pre-analysis step, that sigma theta is actually orthogonal to the direction in which you are applying the stress. And right now we are applying the stress in x-axis, but the circumferential stress is also oriented in the x-axis. So we need to change it, and we need to set it to y-axis, not z-axis, because we are not dealing with 3D geometry yet. We are only dealing in 2D. Okay. Second thing is tau r theta. Now tau r theta is actually a xy component, because shear is applied in both x and y directions. Okay, and we know that from the FBD that we just drew right there. But it does not use the global coordinate system, it uses the polar coordinate system, so we just set it to that. So now we are done defining what we want to see. We are done calculating what we need to see. We are done defining the geometry. We are done defining the mesh. We are also done defining what we need to see through the software. Now we only need to define the actual results, which we will get by calculating this big solve button over here. So let's just hope that everything works out. But you know what? We'll just X out of here. Alright. This is what numerical solution. Okay, we won't X out of here. We'll just click the solve button. Let's just hope that things work out in our favor and we get the solution. So now I clicked it, and you can see that it has completed successfully. There are no errors, no messages, because we did everything the way it was intended to do. Now we are going to X out of here. Don't really need to, but we will. And as you can see over here, now everything has a check mark in front of it, which means that everything just worked out fine. All we need to do now is check the results and validate and verify that we have done everything right. Just right click and click on edit. All right, we just did that, and it will now open up ANSYS Mechanical once for the final time now. And as you can see, all the solutions have converged and we have got check marks in front of it. We'll click on, we'll first look at the total deformation. Now, as I said, we get some colorful pictures. We have it in here. We have a colorful picture, which basically, what happened? Who messes? Yes. Okay. So we have this colorful picture in here, which is, and each one of these colors are defining the various stresses that are being applied in here. No, various deformations that are happening at the different times, because we are looking at the deformation right now. Now basically we can also see the mesh in here. I don't really like seeing the mesh, so I usually turn it off by going to edges, then clicking no wireframe, and we can only see these colors now. They really look great to look at. But you know what? That's not enough. I want to see an animation. So there is this big play button in here. I'll just click it. And as you can see, that I can see in real time how the plate is deforming. But this is still, you know what? There is no basis for me to confirm that it is really happening. So I will go back to edges, and you can see that there is an option over show undeformed wireframe. We'll just click on it. And right now there is this big outline in here. This is the original object that we used, and the rest of it, the colors over here, this is the object after the deformation. And if we just click the play button, we can see how much this thing has deformed. All right. The other thing that we need to note in here is this bar over here. This bar is defining what is the minimum deformation and what is the maximum deformation that has happened. We can see that the maximum deformation is 0.17605. But if we go back to our presentation, right, and if we check out the values that we calculated, which are right here, we can see that we calculated the total deformation to be 0.1724 inches. Okay, so 0.17605 and 0.1724. There is a little bit of deviation. Why is the deviation? Well, this is what the verification validation step is for, right? If we go back to our verification validation step, there are a few checks that we need to perform. So yes, what is verification? Did I solve the model right? As you can see, I expected deformation, I got deformation. So yes, I did solve the model right. Are the mathematical results consistent with the mathematical model? We know what mathematical model we solved, right? We know that we just calculated the strain values delta L divided by capital L, and we got a value that is finite. It is not infinite. It is not extremely large. It is not extremely small. It is enough. Okay, and therefore, yes. Are the results consistent? Yes. Are the level of numerical errors acceptable? Yes, they are acceptable, because if we look back, we had calculated the deformation to be 0.1724, but we got from the simulation 17605. The greater magnitude, which is in the 170 to 180 range, it's still good. We are still in the 0.17 to 0.18 range. It's good enough for us. The other thing that we need to look at now is sigma r. Sigma r, the radial stress. What we knew is that irrespective of theta, if we are at the hole, sigma r will be 0. Now, I want to look at what is happening at the hole, right? I will just go here and select the probe tool. The probe tool will give me values at every single one of these points in this geometry. Alright. Now if I just go at r is equals to a and theta is equals to 0, which is somewhat over here, I can see that it is not 0. It is minus 2202.07. This is obviously not 0, right? But that is the beauty of this thing. When we calculated using our hand calculations, we assumed some things like infinity and whatnot. All right. And because of that, the answers that we got were exact. They weren't finite. They were, in fact, due to assumptions. But when the software actually solves it, it actually considers the object to be a finite space. And because of that, the values that we are getting here are never going to be 0. They are going to be something, but they are never going to be 0. Okay, they are just going to be something. All you can do is that you can compare this value to the maximum value that you are applying. We applied 1 into 10 raised to 6 psi, but the value that we are getting in here is minus 2202.07 psi, which is like less than 1% if you really check it. All right, and that is still acceptable. Okay, the other thing that we need to see, also we can look at the theta is equals to 90-degree and it is 2632.4, which is also not 0, but yeah, I just said we can accept it because it is in the low 1%. Okay, then we can actually look at r greater than a at theta is equals to 0 and theta is equals to 90. Now there is no infinity in here obviously because the object ends over here. If we come back over here at the boundary, we can see that it is in fact 1e6 psi. We can see that r is equals to infinity and theta is equals to 0, sigma r is equals to sigma naught. And this is what we applied. We got an exact solution. That is great. Okay. Then the other thing that we can look at is for r is equals to infinity and theta is equals to 90-degree, the radial stress will be 0. 0 is not an option, but let's see what we get. So this is r is equals to infinity, and once we start going from theta is equal to 0 to theta is equals to 90-degree, we end up over here. Okay, and if we just zoom in and we see, we will find that it is like what, minus 18.342, very less, never 0 but very less, still acceptable. So we can safely say that the radial stress that we are getting from the simulation is actually right, and we have done the simulation correctly. We can also check for the circumferential stress. If we just click on sigma theta, we can see that it has a different contouring present over here. Okay, and if we just go and look at the thing, okay, if we just click on the probe tool and we check at different places, we will see that r is equals to a and theta is equals to 0 degree. So this is r equals to a and theta is equals to 0. We got minus 1.0285 E6. We wanted minus sigma naught. We almost got minus sigma naught. Okay. Then we can check at r is equals to a and theta is equals to 90-degree. So this is r equals to a, theta is equals to 90-degree means somewhat over here. We got 3.0334 E06. We wanted 3 sigma naught. We got this. Good enough. Then we can go at r is equals to a, r is equals to infinity, okay, which is basically the boundary, and theta is equals to 0. We can see that it is 10,264 psi. We applied 1e6 psi and we got about this much. Now you can argue that this is not like you know what, this is like about 10% or something, maybe. I don't know really. You can argue that this is really big and I cannot really have it. Then all you can do is just go back to the meshing and refine your mesh. That's the best option that you can do, and then it will calculate what you need to calculate. Okay, so 10,264 psi, we will just be happy with it right now. It is not 0. We don't want 0 because we know it cannot be 0. Okay, then we can go at r is equals to infinity and theta is equals to 90-degree. So r is equals to infinity is again the boundary, but theta is equals to 90 degree. Theta is equals to 90-degree. Come on. Oh my God. If you're dumb like me, then you're always going to end up in situations like this where you just mess up the coordinate system. Oh my God. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Okay, okay, okay. Where is the whole? Oh yes. Okay. So yes. So r is equals to infinity is this the boundary, but theta is equals to 90 degrees here. We can see that at theta is equals to 90 degree at the boundary, it is 9.854 E5. We needed E6. This is not acceptable, right? Because that is like a 10 times magnitude difference. A 10 times difference is not great. But if we go a little bit down, somewhere over here, you will find out that there is one E6 present in here. Now this difference. This is simply because our mesh wasn't so refined and therefore the software failed to kind of calculate every single point. But we can safely assume that things are working quite fine. Okay, we have got our sigma naught in here, even though if it is not at infinity, it is fairly far away from the hole. Alright, and it is good enough. Then we got the shear stress. Alright, the shear stress. Now, as I have written in here that the shear stress is 0 overall, irrespective of r and theta. We can just check that. We go to tau r theta. We will go to r is equals to a and theta is equals to 0. It comes out to be this much. And r is equals to a and theta is equals to 90 degree. It comes out to be this much. But when we go at r is equals to infinity and theta is equals to 0, it comes out to be this much and about this much over here. In general, what I mean to say is it isn't 0. It is not going to be 0, but it is small enough that we can consider it to be 0. Okay, then that is basically the thing, that those are basically the radial stresses, circumferential stresses, and shear stresses, and the total deformation. One last thing that we need to check is the max stress. Now the max stress we calculated theoretically to be 3.3 into 10 raised to 6, but experimentally, or you can also say by simulation, it is 3.033 into 10 raised to 6. Okay, so if we look just over here on the bar, we can find that the maximum stress is in fact 3.0334 E6. All right, this over here, 3.0334 E6, which means that the experimental stress that we hoped to see is in fact present, and our simulation has successfully been completed now. After going through all of that, now we can say that our simulation is finally done, and with that, this entire lecture or whatever you want to call it is also done. Okay, I know it was a little bit, you know what, complex and maybe boring or something,